based on the Talmud. It's based on you. Yeah. Well, it's all about.
They have a word for it.
Yeah, like our legal system is based on the Talmud. It's based on you give them the best argument you can, and if anyone believes you, you win, and that's literally it. And so that's what they're doing now, and it's always buyer's remorse. It's one reason why I don't blame anything on Jews, because I was telling my stream this today. I'm like, if you have a man who's married to a woman that he's given his vows to, and he's at a bar, and a prostitute seduces him and then exploits him for money, who's done a worse act? And it's the man. It's like, so the man breaks his vows to his wife, and the prostitute is trying to lie and manipulate to get him in a compromising position. And so then the man's like, oh, that fucking whore, oh, that bitch. And it's like, well, you cheated on your wife. And I picture the Jews a lot like that, where they're like, because I used to be friends with this Israeli, and I was telling her, I'm like, you guys said that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and we fought a war, and it turns out that they didn't. And she goes, yeah, but you believed us. And I was like staring at her like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it was just a different culture. It's a whole different culture where they're like, it's like leprechaun culture.
I think it's a culture and a practice worth criticizing, though. I wouldn't blame them at all for it. No, of course, both sides have some blame for it if you fall for their traps. Yeah, but I wouldn't say no blame.
But if you blame them, you give up your authority. That's what I've learned over the years. Where like, let's say, do you want a prostitute at the bar? No. Like, I would love to not have the prostitute at the bar. Yes, obviously. But it's like people have to start accepting that they're agreeing to all this shit. Like, imagine a world where nobody took a vaccine, nobody like agrees with a war. Like,
did we agree to get censored by ADL and all these other groups and have them be able to lie about us and mess with your Wikipedia and all these nasty things? Did we agree to that?
No, but see, here's the thing: is they kicked us out of their systems, which made our lives harder. You know, I started doing tree work for my brother again after like making 15 grand a night doing colleges, and I lose all that shit, and I'm humbled and thrown to the wolves. But because this is the deepest irony is like our story is more similar to the Jews than the current Jews. So it's like some of their power right now came because they weren't allowed to take part in certain systems like 100 years ago. And so they started their own systems and became ridiculously wealthy. And I'm starting to see that, where because I wasn't allowed in clubs and theaters, I had to reach out to my audience and be like, dude, I'll perform in your fucking barn. Like, just let's keep this going. I became closer with my audience. We cut out the middleman. I started utilizing my PO box. We started our own social media. And I started realizing that everything they do is a gamble. So they'll be like imagine if they shut off power and water. Like they gaz at us, where they're like, okay, you have no more electricity, no more power, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people would die and it would be horrifying. But a lot of people would start realizing that they could decentralize power creation. They could, like, let's say all of our bank cards stopped working. People would start trading silver again. And they know that. They know that it's all about consent. So it's like, if they kick you out, and if you accept that, if you're like, let me back in, then yeah, they're being tyrannical. They're beating down their slave. But you're like, okay, I'll accept this and I'll start building my own shit. They're fucked. You get like tons of power. You become a competitor. And that's why they need your consent so bad. That's why nobody sent a mask in the mail. And I noted that while it was happening, where everybody's pushing the mask thing. It was all influencers. It was all about, you can't go to a concert. You can't go to a bar. You can't, work for this bullshit company. Nobody ever made anyone do it. And they're like, oh, but they had to. They mandated it. I'm like, I never wore a fucking mask. I was like, but I realized that I might not be allowed in grocery stores. So I got goats and cows and a greenhouse. And, it's crazy. But when you realize that they only can influence you and give you comforts, you see that they're teetering. And right now I see them, they're consolidating power tremendously. But at the same time, they're losing influence. And their brand, like the brand of Jew, is tanking. Like if Jew was traded on the stock market, I would short that fucking stock. That whole like, oh, I'm a Jew, used to have people be like, oh, I'm sorry, here's my foreskin, here's my money. And now people are just like, oh boy, stay away from the kids.
How about the stock of Edom? I appreciate you shared my Edom compilation video. Are you Edom pilled now? What do you think of that?
Explain that better.
Edom, remember the prophecies of all the rabbis talking about Edom is Western civilization, America and Europe, and in the end they're going to be destroyed?
Yeah, I think Edom's pretty fucked. I see like the whole, I see all the money shifting east, where Switzerland's going to Afghanistan, Israel's going to Ukraine.
BRICS.
America, what's that?
BRICS, like the BRICS competing economy?
Yeah. When you get at Russia, China, India, it's a lot like Canada, America, Mexico. And they have the demographics, the birth rates, the less debt. The wealth is going that direction. And like, if you know the history of Switzerland, they were a lot like the Afghanis 400 years ago, like poor, mountainous warriors right in the center of all the money. And so that's where I see a lot of Jews make prophecies about economic shit that they know is going to come so that they can look like special boy religious predictors.
Yeah, that's the spell that all of prophecy is. They don't have magical powers. They just convince the nations that they are chosen by God and are the prophets of God and can do these prophecy predictions. It's predictive programming. It's a spell. Yeah. It's a mind control, in my opinion. That's what all prophecy is.
Yeah, they're reading the prophets. It's the same sound. It's like they're reading the prophet.